So if you are against teaching the critical race theory and teaching the true history of segregation, civil rights, and all of the horrible things that come with it, but really did happen, was part of our history. For instance, I never read about or was taught about Emmett Till in school. I was never taught about the massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or on Black Wall Street. Never heard about any of that information. We were not taught that information in school. It's all been whitewashed.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Yeah, so in today's episode, you're going to be reacting to a video of a Caucasian woman who gives her accounts on how they were taught about colonization.
Yeah, so in this clip, the woman explains how their history was so whitewashed and how colonization and slavery was romanticized, and how in their schools, their white schools, they were taught how colonization was a good thing to black people.
Right, and the funny thing is, guys, when we normally tell you about whitewashing of history, she says it's coming from the horse's mouth, and she went further on to say that when they were talking about colonization, they were not told the real situation of how colonization happened.
Yeah,
the bad, the ugly, they were not told.
Instead, they were only told the good, that white people brought civilization to Africa, forgetting how civilization started in Mesopotamia, which was in Africa. Anyway, they were being told of how white people rescued Africans from their uncivilized ways, and how when they went, when colonization finally ended, Africans were doomed because of that, and they couldn't govern themselves, forgetting how they had looted the continent before they were eventually kicked out. But before saying so much about this video, let's just hear what they have to say, and then we come back and talk about it.
How Belgians are taught about the colonization of Congo in our schools. So let me tell you what it was like when I was in school. I'm 31 now, so it was a while ago, but not that long ago. Colonization is part of the school curriculum, so we have to learn about it. However, there was a very interesting thing that happened when it came to learn, about Belgium. Now, interestingly, we don't learn a lot about Belgium in Belgian schools. Like, we learn more about France than about Belgium and their history and their kings, and we learn the global European history. But at some moment, we need to come to colonization. We need to come to Congo, right? Right, well, I will quote my teacher. Leopold and Belgians made Congo the most beautiful of all colonies. That was a sentence that was pronounced, and I was in a good school. And there were talks of prosperity and how Belgium brought so much to Congo. And I don't even dare think how it was in other schools, but interestingly enough, when talking with people, a lot of us had more or less of a similar experience. Years later, my sister had the exact same experience. Colonization was a very positive thing that happened to Africa. Now, thankfully, in Belgium, we have a whole lot of NGOs. We have a whole lot of cultural and art organizations. And all artists, everybody who's involved in that, knows the reality. I'm speaking for myself as somebody who was a member of several art academies and so many art NGOs. People know about it. The younger generations especially know about it, but schools didn't seem to be pushing that knowledge very far, or rather the darker parts of that knowledge. Now, if you're wondering if kids spoke up, the answer is yes. When we were told that Congo was the most beautiful colony and that it brought Congolese people so many good things, I personally asked one question. Did we ask them their opinion? According to whom? Did we ask them their opinion? You know what the answer was? The answer was, yes, we did. That's why Congo has problems now. The answer was, after the decolonization, the Congolese refused further administrative rule by Belgians, and so they've pushed Belgians to leave Congo, and all of the problems that Congo has now was because they refused further administrative rule by Belgium. That was the answer I got when I asked, did we ask the Congolese people their opinion about colonization? And I'm so upset when thinking of it right now. It's insane, You're a kid, you ask a question and you're shut down in such a way so that other kids are also afraid of asking further questions. And then you're painted as a disruptive person, who always has to fight with teachers, who always has to speak during class. And I was a good student, I did just have a bit of a reputation of being the one who talks, who always complains, etc. But was I wrong? Maybe that's what upset me so much, that when I asked the thing that was right, because I was taught the real history of Congo, yes, by my parents, but also by other institutions. I was a member of art staff when I was very young already, and artists always know these things. I've noticed even now artists are very loud about these things. And the worst part is we all had that ugly feeling in our stomach during that lesson, because a lot of us knew. And we did try to speak out after that. We did try to speak out about oppression, but the subject was changed, the subject was closed. And so many have had the same experience. I mean, I'm wondering if there are younger people on TikTok now, do you have the same experience that we had in many places, really? Also, another thing, when we speak about the colonization, we speak of it as something that happened a long time ago. For example, even when we spoke about this, we spoke about rubber. We didn't speak about cobalt, for example. And even now, even more recently, we would speak, about the exploitation of rubber, much more than whatever is happening right now. And thinking of it now, like it was 15 years ago, it fills me with so much rage, with so much frustration. And I'm so grateful for everybody who's speaking out right now, because I don't know what is taught right now. I'm so grateful for all the organizations, for all the art academies, for all the art expos, for all the ONGs that spoke about it, even when it was not the topic. That's why I mentioned the art academies. It was not our topic, but there was always somebody who would make a painting about that and then talk about it. And I'm so grateful for every single one of those people. And I think that we have a duty in Belgium to speak about this because of the history of Belgium. And I'm not talking about born Belgians, the descendants of that, but of all of us, all of us who are, when you become part of Belgium, you become part of Belgium's history. You become, whether you have your nationality or whatever, whether you have origins that are from other countries, whether you're mixed or not. It is our history of all of us. And anybody who lives here needs to have the opportunity to learn about the actual history, to learn about what actually happened in Congo, especially when schools are not giving a rightful version of it. As for the rest, I had to wait until university to learn about Indonesia, to learn about the Netherlands and their colonization. I had to wait until the university to learn about Orientalism itself. I find that Edward Said, for example, is an extremely important person in the research of how Europe perceives the world and how the world perceives Europe as well. But I don't think that he's widely taught in schools in Europe. He is taught in universities depending on what your major is. So there are people who go their whole lives without learning these things, or learning very limited and very whitewashed version. Euphemism is a weak word for what we are taught about colonizations. Except in university, only in university I was taught about the full horrors of what happened, not only in Africa, but also, in Indonesia. But why did I have to wait so long to hear it from an official academic institution? And why was I taught at school that it was a very nice thing to colonize Congo? And when speaking out, why was I seen as the one who was disruptive and not one who was absolutely normal in that situation?
So guys, welcome back. I know you've had to hear what the sisters are saying, and you guys, I just want you to tell us on the comment section, what is you guys' experience with the academic institutions, and how did you come to learn about slavery, and what is it exactly that you learned about slavery?
And other than what Maren has asked you, my question is this. What was the point as a child growing up in America or any predominantly white society? What was the point when you as a black person came to the realization that your history was being whitewashed? When was the exact moment? Even for the white people who are watching our platforms, please just let us know, when was the exact moment you realized how whitewashed history was?
And what was it exactly that happened that made you say, wait a minute, that made you question everything the information you were being given in school was not enough, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's only these Western countries, because I'm going to give our country for us an example. You know, when the administrative government of the Queen, when they were leaving Kenya, they didn't just leave. They began with burning the documents
that documented how they ruled Kenya and all the atrocities they committed. You know, so they burnt all those documents because they didn't want the Kenyan government that was succeeding them to get hold of what they had done or have proof of documentation of what the white government had done.
Right, they burnt the documents, whatever they could manage to burn,
they shipped out to Europe, and the rest was what do you call it, when you drop things in the ocean to sink, you know, immersed in the ocean.
Yeah, the rest was dumped into the ocean, just so as Kenyans, the black people in Kenya could not find out or could not realize the true extent of the atrocities they had committed in Africa. But it's quite interesting and it's quite amazing to see that such people come out and say, you know what, these are things we were never taught in school. And you know, one thing I'm telling myself is, how many people are like these ladies who want to sort out after the truth? There are people, the dangers of teaching the younger generation the way these ones were taught is the one who doesn't care exactly to go and look for that information. Let's just imagine someone doesn't want to go to university, you understand? So the primary level, you've been taught about how it was such a good thing to colonize Africa, you know, and that is the idea that is being bred into this young generation. So picture that person, they don't want to go to university anymore, and then this person, whatever career they take, maybe they become a musician or what, that is the idea that sticks into the brain of this person. So that kid, the white kid, will not be in a position to understand what the black kids are trying to say, because they never were taught the true extent of colonization and its impact back in school.
And as we always say, so long as there is that one person who comes out to speak about the truth, then the world has hope, you know, because these are the kind of situations that will forever put two different races at loggerheads with each other, because one race is here being told this happened to you, and the other race is here being taught how to invalidate what happened to another race, you know. So I feel like personally this is a great way to start and might give room to a possible reconciliation between two races that didn't see eye to eye, by being honest about what had happened.
Another thing I have to admit is that this whitewashing of history does not only affect this type of people, you know, this type of countries. Even here in Africa, history has so much been distorted that a lot of Africans, they don't remember what happened in the colonial era, especially the young generation. The way they are taught in schools, they are taught to see the white man as the savior. So it's why you find a lot of Africans moving abroad and the culture shock of their life hits them, you know.
Especially when they experience their first racist encounters. So for those who are in these platforms and you are African diasporas abroad, you can be in America, Europe, wherever, please just tell us what was your first experience or encounter with racism, and did you really think that abroad there was no racism, and what was your rude awakening?
And you know, in Africa, by the way, they don't teach about the racism that exists in America.
We only see it in movies.
We only see it in movies. And for those who, because I know there are poor people who don't have time to watch television, you understand? Those are the kind of people who, if they get a chance to go abroad right now, I kid you not, they'll go abroad with all these expectations, not knowing what they're going to meet as a black man or woman abroad. It's not taught in African schools. I can imagine the farthest that can go to an African country being taught about racism must be South Africa, because of, you know, they still deal because of apartheid, and they still deal with it up to date.
Yeah. So guys, let us know what you think about this episode.